Good evening, folks. It's Tom Bell from the Unplugged Disneyland Edition, along with Michael Bowling, and we are outside a deserted Anaheim Convention Center at the end of day 3 of D23 Expo 2013. What a day it was. What an expo it was, actually. Today was a big celebration by Imagineering of their 60th anniversary. They had 5 different presentations. We made it to 4 out of 5, I think. Not bad. A lot of other presentations going on. I can tell you about a couple of those. Let's start with Imagineering. Open the day with Working with Walt, hosted by Marty Sklar, and some Disney legends on the panel. Atencio, Alice Davis, and Bob Gurr in attendance. A lot of the same stories Disney fans have already heard. One of the fun ones Bob Gurr told about confirming one of the clips that was shown for Saving Mr. Banks, where Walt would walk down the hallway and cough in the hallway, thereby warning the Imagineers or the animators that he was on his way, and to give them a chance to straighten up their desk or straighten up whatever they were doing. Alice Davis, of course, had to disagree with him, and she was around when they were working on Bambi, and when Bambi was being worked on and Walt would come in the room, the key word was "man is in the forest," and man was in the forest. It would travel around across the room till everybody knew that Walt was heading down the hallway. Kind of fun stories from Disney legends. Disney legends love to talk about working with Walt, and just the history and their experiences. It was a great presentation.
I heard Atencio sang a little song.
He sang Yo-Ho. Yes, he did.
That must have been great.
Yeah, okay.
He wrote it. It must have been wonderful to hear it.
Yes, okay. So there was one we didn't see, but the next one we did see, actually Michael saw, was called Craft of Creativity. And tell us a little bit about that one.
This was chock full of Imagineers. Chris Morton, Tom Fitzgerald, Eric Jacobson, Daniel Ju, Joe Lanzisero, Kathy Mangum, Joe Rhode. And they talked about the path they took to get to Imagineering. There is no clear path, is basically the storyline. They all had very different and varied backgrounds. As they said, you don't go to Imagineering school. They said you have to have talent, you have to have passion, and you have to, and a certain amount of luck and a certain amount of circumstances that open doors. But they said you just have to stick to what your passion and talents are, and don't say no to any opportunity. Joe Rhode said you have to be the kind of person who wants to share. The job isn't telling people what to do, and a lot of people go into Imagineering thinking that everybody has to listen to me now. It's a lot of generous sharing of knowledge and a generous sharing of power. There's a lot of philosophical questions that you have to ask yourself too. For instance, Joe was saying that when you when he started the project of Alani, they talked about, you had to ask first, why are we even going there? Why do people go there? What is it about? What makes Hawaii? And it turns out that it's the Hawaiians that make it that way. So what is going to make this resort true to Hawaiians? And what do we know? What do we know about making resorts enchanting and livable? And then using what we know at Disney and what the Hawaiians know means that this resort isn't going to look like any other resort. And what can we do with the Hawaiian stories to incorporate them into this resort? And these are the questions that Imagineers have to ask themselves of every single project. What's they're asking of Shanghai right now as they build that. So it was really interesting to hear about their varied backgrounds, all their different talents that led them to Imagineering. One of the questions, because they had a Q&A, was the very first one was, will the Yeti be fixed? And Joe Rhode said it's a complicated piece of machinery standing on the 40-foot tower inside a finished building. But he said that we're working on it, and he made the promise, I will fix the Yeti someday, I swear. So nice. We all have something to look forward to. And Kathy Mangum sort of summed up the whole reason that they work at Imagineering. She said there's nothing like seeing guests experiencing something you've worked on for 5 years and seeing the joy on their faces.
Nice. One of the next presentation we went to was called Leading a Legacy. This was with former head of Imagineering Marty Sklar and current head of Imagineering Bruce Vaughn. Did you get to that one?
I did.
Okay, cool. It was to me this was one of the most relaxed ones. They were just the two of them sitting up there talking,
sharing stories. Marty, of course, sharing stories about Walt.
Right, and Bruce sharing stories about working with Marty almost. Yeah. The one phrase the one quote that I took away from it was what we did was something Walt said. What we did yesterday is never going to be good enough again.
Exactly. They always had to stretch themselves. Walt always made his people stretch themselves and learn something more. The good example of that was when he asked John Hench to build the Plaza Inn in Disneyland. And John said, I don't know anything about restaurants. And Walt said, well, don't look at me. I don't know anything. You go out and learn. So John went to UCLA and took a restaurant management course. And then he designed the Plaza Inn, and he became the go-to person for all the restaurants built at Disney. He knew exactly what the chefs needed, what wasn't in the right place, what was missing, because Walt expected his people to stretch and grow with each project.
Right. So this was basically about the management of Imagineering, and it was really kind of cool. The final Imagineering session today was Leave 'em Laughing, and I hear that one was kind of fun.
It was fun, but for me, I think it was the least, fulfilling of all of them.
Okay.
Because it said, learn about what we do to put humor into the attractions. And I thought it meant that this is the process we go through. This is what we do at the concept stage, the story writing stage. And what it really was, and it was still very entertaining, but what it really was these are the gags and the jokes and the things that we've already put into the parks.
Okay.
And so it was a lot of fun, and they did go through a lot of examples of the words of the gags, what they've put into music. They talked about a lot of personal stories. They talked about also how not all of the gags and jokes translated once they started building international parks. For instance, the Jungle Cruise, the jokes did not translate, especially in Mandarin. They said there's one joke that translated no matter what park they went to, and that was the one where you can always leave your mother-in-law behind.
Nice.
On the cruise. The funny thing is that they went through the different eras of Imagineering, but when they got to the Michael Eisner era, they would you say they were not as positive?
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. They were a bit derisive about the Michael Eisner era, and it was more that era was more based on celebrities. He brought the concept of celebrities in. They had a really funny story where they for when they were throwing the concept of it's tough to be a bug, and they were presenting it to Michael Eisner in some of the gags. They had one where Flick was, you might remember the dating game. This was going to be the mating game, and Flick was going to be asking questions of 3 deadly insects, like a praying mantis, a black widow, things like that. So they were all excited about this. So they had Flick asking his first question of the black widow. We've just had our first romantic date. What do you do now? And she said, I'll bite off your head and suck out your guts. And Michael Eisner said, no, wait. And they all thought he was going to say something about the response to the question, and he said, no ant would ever date a spider. And they said he was always just a little off. They never knew what was going to grab his attention.
Nice.
So overall, it was a funny bit. It wasn't what I expected, but I know that Craig recorded it, and so you'll enjoy it. They had a great story about how some of the songs were created for Mater's Junkyard Jamboree.
Those are fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Very nice.
Okay.
So, like Michael said, we have a lot of video that's going to go up in the next couple of days. Watch for new.livestream.com/thediz, YouTube/thediz. That's all going to go up very soon. One other presentation today that I went to was the presentation from Disney Interactive, which I thought was just the video games, but they do a lot of other things. They do apps, but they also handle Disney.com. They've got a couple new things coming on Disney.com, some short web direct-to-web little mini-series. That's not a word. Anyway, it is now. It's on the internet. It's forever. One's called Blank, a Vinylmation love story. It's about it's a stop motion little series of videos about a Vinylmation who didn't get painted. So, and it's really cool. It's a little adventure with 2 little Vinylmations that didn't get painted.
And this has really good production quality.
It's really beautifully done. They showed us a lot of like the first episode, and it's really cool. The other one that's coming a little later is It's a Small World, the animated series, and announced today, featuring new music by Richard M. Sherman.
That'll be cool.
Yes, very cool. And they showed a rehearsal of one of the songs he was playing, like the theme to it, which is really cool. That man
never retires.
No. The other things that were announced, the other things they talked about was the Disney animation app for your iPad that just came out, which is amazing. It's like your coffee table books of animation, like an animated movie, except all 50 whatever animated films that have been out. You can scroll through all the different films, see scene by scene, see storyboards, anything like that, and it's fairly inexpensive, like $12 or $13. So check that out in your iTunes store. I just did an ad. The other one that's coming out later is called Fantasia Music Evolved. It's by the people that did Rock Band, and it's your classical music, your rock music, set in the world of Fantasia. So that's going to be for Xbox with Kinect, Xbox 360 with Kinect. And then, of course, the big news, Disney Infinity, that's being released on the 18th. They showed some previews of that, announced a few new worlds that are coming, Toy Story world that's coming, actually, Toy Story, the alien planet from Toy Story, which is kind of cool. Some new figures coming, Elsa and Anna from Frozen, and, of course, Sorcerer Mickey, which is coming, but not until the first of the year. However, if you were in attendance of that, you received one. So watch for those on eBay, I'm sure. Watch for those on eBay, I'm sure. Yes, first 5,000. I think that's everything we went to today. We are going to talk again along with Craig sometime this week, and that show will go up on Thursday on www.disunplugged.com. Click on the green Disneyland edition button. That'll be our podcast. You can hear our final thoughts, our recap, our opinions, maybe some, more opinions that we would share here.
Sort of our final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Oh, exactly. after a good night's sleep. Yeah. We appreciate you watching these last 3 or 4 days. It was awesome here at the Anaheim Convention Center. Thanks again for watching. From Michael, I'm Tom. We have Craig behind the camera. We appreciate you. Good night.
Here in 2015.
Definitely. Good night.